Hello, cartoon fans!
Hey,
Today, no need to make a 4 hours long introduction, I'm going to rank every 2023 movie that I watched. This was a really great year when it came to movies. If I had to make a tier list, none of the 2023 movies I watched will be in D tier. However, there are too few C tiers. Let's get started. I don't know what else to say for this introduction. Wait, yes actually. But first things first, this video is sponsored by something nobody's gonna care about, even though you can use the code KURTVIN1991 to get 30% off. Cool! Well, the sponsor's over, so let's get started. Warning, there will be some spoilers. So, to sum up this movie,
once there was an ugly Murdoch. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end.
no, actually, Grookey's just kidding. But frankly, the plot is way too simple. It's just Ant-Man saving his buddies in a quantum dimension. He has not so exciting adventures, he fights enemies, and what's not. It disappoints me a bit to put Quantumania so low and to rant on it like that. But frankly, this movie pisses me off because it represents the cliché Marvel haters who don't know anything about the studio see when they think of Marvel. Hi, I'm Mr. Boomer. It's some of this Marvel movie. There are people fighting. The end. The story isn't great. The events that happen to fill it up aren't so exciting. The action scenes aren't great. The characters aren't that interesting. In short, this movie seems like it's trying to give in to the haters who only see MCU movies as stories with no depth where people only hit each other. And that's what pisses me off so much about Quantumania. Oh, and that villain is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life. Plus, he isn't even able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Damn, this is not the best period for Disney casting movies. I mean, they made movies that built my childhood and are still among my favorite movies today. I'm the first to defend them when some toxic Ghibli fanboys tell them, LOL, Studio Ghibli movies are art, Disney movies are cash grabs, or say, if you like Disney better, that's because you don't know shit about Ghibli.
Sorry, unlike you, I'm an objective mind, not a 3-year-old toddler.
And now, their latest movies are always movies that exist. But honestly, Wish is a movie that is just too basic. It's Miss Disney Princess who lives in a place where there's a lot that Miss doesn't like, so Miss gets depressed, Miss meets comic relief, Miss rebels against the law with comic relief, Father isn't happy, Father turns himself into a Father turns himself into a villain, sad scene, Father wants to destroy the town, Miss arrives, Miss stops Father from destroying the town, Miss defeats Father, blah blah blah, happy ever after, the end. A sort of mix of several Disney movies, but made. Unlike other Disney movies with similar plots, such as Aladdin or Tangled, Wish has nothing to help it shine in comparison with those other Disney classics. As a result, it's pretty forgettable. I really forgot most of the things that happened in this movie. Asha is a princess who, in both character design and personality, doesn't do enough things to exist alongside Jasmine, Mulan, or Jenna. Same for King Malefico, who isn't quite as top as Jafar or Gaston. As a result, they are among the most boring characters in Disney's existence. Even the songs are, for the most part, forgettable. The only one I can remember is I'm a Star, which I won't choose here to avoid copyright strikes. Wish is so forgettable that some people think Disney used an AI to create it. And while I don't believe in that theory, the mere fact that it exists proves just how forgettable this movie is. This is very disappointing. I was expecting a lot more for a movie that was supposed to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Disney. Oh, interesting. A movie about the Second World War, and no, the joke isn't original anymore. It's actually a movie about Barbie dolls. What a surprise! So for the time being, it wasn't that far from being B tier. The first half of the movie is actually pretty good, with some good visuals, an interesting gore, and a few good jokes. The movie starts in Barbieland, the city where Barbie dolls live in, as well as the male versions, Ken dolls. No, I'm not talking about Ken or Ken, he's just Ken. Not Ken, the ruthless street fighter, nor Ken, the minion who works in the mailroom. Just Ken. Barbie dolls are always happy and they give a life of parties, resting at the beach, and dancing. As for Ken dolls, their main goal is to find a Barbie doll who's in love with them. But everything changes when at a party, stereotypical Barbie suddenly starts thinking about death. She becomes less happy and decides to talk to weird Barbie about her situation. She explains to stereotypical Barbie that her owner is depressed and that to avoid becoming like weird Barbie, stereotypical Barbie will have to help her owner to cheer up. With one of the Kens, she goes on a road trip into the real world, and that's when everything falls apart. Ken discovers the magical world of misogyny. Yay! So he decides to bring this concept to Barbie, and the problem with this movie is that from this scene, the movie becomes very boring. It takes too long to tell its story, and there are a lot of cringe moments, even though I was kind of expecting them. Frankly, if the rest of the movie were as funny and inventive as its first half, I'd have easily given it an A tier. But as it stands, the movie is watchable. It's far from being the worst shit I've ever watched, but it's so far from being unforgettable. Let's move on to the B tier. This movie uses two graphic styles. The first is stop-motion animation with K-style art direction. The second is 2D with a paper drawing graphic style. This movie really has some poetic vibes and is a rare, interesting biography of Leonardo da Vinci. Not right of its pros, it's that it's a really good movie for the whole family. Most children could watch it without any problems, but it also dares to talk to them as it would talk to an adult, but without traumatizing them either. The scenery and graphic styles are really pretty, especially Leonardo da Vinci's ideal city. The movie even made me want to learn more about this famous inventor. It's a good movie, and it's also nice to see that stop motion isn't dead. Now, gotta warn you, the next entry might be a bit of a hot take. This statement might be a bit controversial, but in the end, I never thought Studio Ghibli movies were all that special.
Or you just don't understand shit about Studio Ghibli.
I've always found Ghibli movies were a bit too long and often boring in their third acts, but I still love the way they take us through a poetic, dreamy universe and introduce us to Japanese culture through this journey into Miyazaki's fantastic world. And in this movie, I think all the pros and the cons that I attribute to most Ghibli movies.
It's always better than a movie with only flaws and no qualities. Looking at you, arrogant witch.
This time, we follow Mahito, a young boy who lost his mother during the Pacific War. He moves to a small traditional village where he meets his adoptive mother, but he discovers a tower that will take him to another world where he will be guided by a man disguised as a heron and a young girl with magical powers. His goal is to save his mother in this magical world. First of all, let's get the movie's main quality out of the way. The graphic style is just gorgeous. We got Studio Ghibli's talent back, as it literally vanished in Eerie and the Witch with its animation and graphic style that looked more like a YouTube nursery rhymes video than a Studio Ghibli movie. Here, the artistic direction is so good that I spent more time admiring the scenery than actually following the story, which isn't really a problem, given that Studio Ghibli movies aren't that fast-paced. The Boy and the Heron also has plenty of creative ideas for renewing itself, introducing us to various creatures from Japanese folklore and transporting us into a culture so different from Western culture. But despite everything, there are quite a few moments when I get bored as in most Studio Ghibli movies, and it doesn't feel that good as other animation movies I ranked above it. Therefore, I don't think it deserved the Oscar. I think JB's just guessed my cup of tea behind Disney, Illumination, there I said it, or DreamWorks. So I think we'll stop here, otherwise I'll end up pissing Studio JB fans. This time, we follow a guy who wakes up, then he goes to work to scrub toilets, then he eats in a restaurant, then he goes to sleep, then he wakes up, then he goes to work to scrub toilets, and he eats in a restaurant, then he goes to sleep. I love my life! No, but seriously, I really like the moral of this movie. Nowadays, we often tend to say that a life where we haven't experienced memorable things, where we haven't accomplished anything really crazy, isn't worth living. But the message of this movie proves all this isn't true. We follow a man named Hirayama. His days are all the same. He wakes up at the same hour every day, waters his houseplants just after waking up, goes to his workplace, he works in toilet scrubbing, spends his free time photographing and admiring nature, eats at the same restaurant every night, and reads a book every night before going to sleep. He doesn't have any big projects for this life, doesn't do anything particularly memorable or crazy, and doesn't accomplish much. So some might say, man, this life sucks! But in the end, we learn a pretty important lesson in this movie, and this lesson is pretty easy to forget these days. Hirayama may have a very simple life, with no big projects, and be a spectator to life, but he's very happy with this. That's the moral. Some of you probably have a simple life where you're a spectator to this life, where you don't have any big projects at all. But if you're happy with this life, then it's a good life. And here, Hirayama has a life that he loves. This lifestyle suits him well. He likes routine, he has a job that may seem boring to most people, but which he doesn't hate and does with care. He can live his passions every day even though he doesn't share them with the whole world. He eats every evening in the place he likes. In short, it's this lifestyle and not another one that's made for Hirayama. We may not want a life like this one, but we shouldn't force people who like this kind of lifestyle to change, because it's what they like. The movie is definitely the odd one out of this list. No action scenes, no incredibly hyper-realistic special effects, and very little music. This gives the movie a chill feel. Put a little Wolfie in this movie, and it could almost become an ASMR video. Following Hirayama in his everyday life is almost relaxing, and it's for all these reasons that the movie is way more interesting than you might think at first glance. Now it's time to move on to the A tier. Yep, that's right. Not even half the movies in this ranking ended up below A tier. That's how good 2023 movies were. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a movie that proves that Marvel is indeed capable of writing good movies with emotional backstories, beautiful action scenes, and great characters. The action scenes are really awesome, especially the final battle. The scenery is good as well, but the movie's biggest quality, the people who watched it already know what I'm talking about, is Rocket's backstory, which is really perfect. The flashbacks he has while unconscious due to a serious injury reveal his past and are probably the saddest scenes in any Marvel movie. Rocket was abducted to be, and I quote, brought to the new world to see the sky and live in the outside world. He was placed in a cage with 3 friends who renamed themselves Thief, Thor, and Gaia, and it was there that Rocket decided to be called by the name we know. They soon became as united as a family. The first flashbacks show us a really cute family relationship between Rocket and his friends, as they can't wait to discover the outside world. At this point, you really hope they'll make it alive and end up happy, but they won't. Oh no, they won't. The movie's main antagonist is actually a man who brings some animals to the new world, but incinerates the ones he considers to be failed experiments. Rocket, Gaia, Tiff, and Thor are part of them. When the raccoon tries to escape, the antagonist finds him, and as the whole quote-unquote family tries to get out, they all get killed, except Rocket, who manages to escape, heartbroken for life over the death of Gaia, Teeth, and Thor. And whether you're an animal activist or not, it's hard not to feel sad for Rocket and his friends. Marvel has really succeeded in making this backstory a truly perfect one. All of this peaks at two scenes. First, the death of Rocket's three friends. And then, the climax, when the Guardians strive to save Rocket from his deadly wound. Rocket has a near-death experience. He's in a white place with some fog. As he looks around, he sees Gaia coming towards him, looking happy. Rocket starts to cry and apologizes for not being able to save her, and Gaia comforts him with a tender wave of her hand, before telling him he was right. The sky is beautiful, and forever. He then sees Teeth and Thor approaching him, and Gaia invites Rocket over to join them and fly together. But suddenly, Gaia tells him, but not now, because Rocket still has things to accomplish. The raccoon says he can't do anything, that he and his friends are just failed experiments. Gaia replies, there are the hands that made us, and there are the hands that guided those hands. She hugs him. She added, the story was yours from the start. You simply didn't know it. Suddenly, Rocket confidently says, I'm not a raccoon, before coming back to his senses. It's a pretty realistic scene too, and there are several experiments that people who go through near-death experience describe seeing. It's not surprising that these scenes are the scenes most people seem to remember.
No, it's just that you only know Disney and Marvel instead of watching real movies. You're so used to get radioactive garbage and to accept it every time that when you're given non-radioactive garbage, you pass it off as the world's greatest masterpiece. You just don't have any standards. Hey, what should I expect from a guy who defends Game Freak anyways?
We talked about this 1,000 times. I'm not going to admit I'm a sucker because some random guy sees me as a sucker. But when a meat eater like me who's like,
oh no! Anyway,
when someone tells him about the horrors in slaughterhouses as he's about to eat meat, still feels emotion while watching those flashback scenes, it's still more than just a C tier among 300 F tiers. Hamburgers. Just for those flashbacks, this movie deserves to be rated A tier, even if Rocket isn't able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Into the Spider-Verse was probably the movie that proved to everyone that Sony Pictures Animation could make great movies just like the biggest animation studios such as Disney, Pixar, Ghibli, DreamWorks, and Sky. So even though I never watched Into the Spider-Verse before watching Across the Spider-Verse, even though I've since watched the first movie, I was eager to see the sequel. In the movie story, Miles Morales, who is the Spider-Man of his dimension, enters the Spider-Verse on a new mission, accompanied by Gwen Stacy, who is a Spider-Woman in another universe, and Miguel O'Hara, who is the Spider-Man of 2099, and it's a very good movie. Miles Morales is as relatable as in Into the Spider-Verse. He really retains the character traits that made Peter Parker so popular in the first Spider-Man comics. In a world where people were mostly interested in strong, powerful, confident and furious superheroes, Stanley had the brilliant idea of creating a more human superhero. Peter Parker had neither the strength nor the self-confidence of a Superman. He was, and still is, a very shy young man who regularly gets bullied and can't leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Therefore, he was much more introspective and relatable than most other superheroes at his time. And Miles Morales is also rather shy and really struggles to balance his personal life as a high school student and his life as a superhero. Another quality of the first movie that the sequel has not lost The animation and graphic styles are stunning. The action scenes are truly great, and fights are so epic. The conflicts between the multiple characters are also interesting to follow. In short, this movie is a banger. There is one small flaw, however. This movie has an ending that is a cliffhanger, making the transition to the next movie in the series, Beyond the Spider-Verse. The problem is, it's so unexpected that the ending feels a bit anticlimactic. Like, we're about to have a new conflict, but the movie abruptly ends without teasing us that much about what's going to happen in the next, and perhaps last, movie in the series. It just kind of ends. It's quite frustrating, because it's like getting on the stage for a concert before telling the audience, "Nope, I will do this concert another time. For today, here's a rerun of another concert of the big screen." Maybe it's because I'm not really a fan of ending movies with a cliffhanger, which is what's caused this movie to score higher than... I'm a little surprised to rank this movie this high, but I thought about it, and in the end, I realized that when I watched Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, I like the action scenes, I like the characters, I love the variety of scenery we see in the movie, and I think the villain's really cool. The main quality of this movie is really the various adventures the characters go through. With the characteristics of each of them, we get really various action scenes. There is a fight against the dragon, a search for the helmet of disjunction that hits a really funny scene in a graveyard, various trials in a labyrinth, and various landscapes, plains, sea, caves, dungeons, mountains, and whatnot. That's what I really like about this movie, because it's exactly what I wanted from a Dungeons & Dragons movie in the first place, even though I haven't seen the other ones. I would have preferred if this movie was based on Disney in Paris' Phantom Manor instead of the American Disney Haunted Mansion ride, but in the end, what do I think? Well, it was a really good movie. Here, the movie's main quality is very clear. The atmosphere is perfect. The movie is really creative in its adaptation of this famous Disneyland ride. Even if the plot is really simple, which prevents this movie from being S tier, it makes up for it with the creativity in our adventures our heroes go through. You never really know what to expect. Here's the main plot. A woman and her son start a new life in New Orleans and find a large mansion for sale. Its price is surprisingly cheap, and we quickly found out why. Strange things happen here every day. They enlist the help of Kent, a priest, Ben, a paranormal expert, Harriet, a psychic, and Bruce, a history teacher, to unravel the mansion's mystery. And it works. Each character is simple but good, and although the plot is still simplistic, they all have their own little thing that make them all interesting, like Ben and his backstory with his dead wife, Agatha. The humor doesn't pop up frequently, but it is really good, and weird but creative things follow one another at a really steady pace, yet you're always caught up in the movie's action and infinite creativity to adapt the famous story of the 999 ghosts that haunt this mansion. Now let's talk about the S-tier movies. After Turning Red, that was fucking hot garbage, I was a little worried about Pixar's next movies, but in the end, Elemental was really good. My main problem with Turning Red was that I didn't feel like I was watching a Pixar movie. It felt more like a movie adapted from one of Disney Channel's cringy live-action sitcoms.
Hey, I'm a rebel! I love boys band! I'm so quirky!
Well, Elemental solved this issue. It has the good jokes, the quality of the writing, the beautiful scenery, and the relatable characters for which Pixar movies are renowned. The movie takes place in a city where creatures are representing four elements live: water, fire, earth, and air. However, the fire creatures act often xenophobic towards the water creatures, like Amber's father, who runs a store in the fire district and has let his daughter run the store during the sale day so she can prove she's ready. Things go wrong, and as a result, she meets Wade, a male water creature. Despite their difference, they gradually fall in love, and Wade gradually makes Amber realize the job she truly wants to exercise in life. Pixar has brilliantly succeeded in tackling the theme of xenophobia in this movie, and in adding its own touch to the impossible love trope. The romance between Amber and Wade works because in a world where fire creatures and water creatures are enemies, we have two characters from these enemies who brave this xenophobia to preserve their love. It is really cute. And for number 4, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I never watched any of the Ninja Turtles movies before watching this one in theaters, and I gotta say, it really was a banger. The movie's only flaw is probably the overuse of cultural references and mentions of other movies that have nothing to do with the Ninja Turtles. But beyond that, this movie does a really good job of delivering a memorable experience. Every character is likable here. We explore the origins of the Ninja Turtles, who have always lived in the sewers of New York and want to find out what the human life is like. But Splinter doesn't want them to go there for any other reason than to stock up on supplies, as he considers the human world too dangerous. They meet April O'Neil, and with her, they'll investigate a series of crimes committed by a mutant named Superfly, who seems rather nice at first, but who will eventually turn up against the Ninja Turtles. Splinter may be a stereotypical overprotective father, but at least, unlike other characters in this genre, the overprotection is justified. Looking at you turning red. All 4 Ninja Turtles are pretty funny characters. Plus, they can leap tall building without getting a wedgie. April O'Neil is a character some people could relate to, and she's pretty nice as well. But the movie's greatest quality is the visuals. The artistic direction of this movie is gorgeous. The character designs of the characters are all really good. The scenery is very simple, but still pretty nonetheless. And above all, the action scenes are just perfect. Whether it's the chases or the fights, it's a red velvet cupcake for your eyes. I love red velvet cupcakes! I didn't expect to rank this movie so high, like higher than the 2023 main Pixar movie, but frankly, Migration is one of the proofs that Illumination writers are far more talented than some people want you to believe. We follow a very simple plot. A family of mallard ducks live in a nice little pond inside a forest, and the children have never left it. But the mother finally convinces the father and even the uncle to make a big migration to Jamaica. During this migration, they encounter various adventures, more seriously, like a heron who's acting scary towards them but ends up saving them from a catfish, a gang of pigeons in New York City, a cook who's a little bit but like a teensy little bit of a psychopath, wants to kill them to cook them in his restaurant, a farm that looks welcoming at first glance but turns out to be run by this chef, and much more. This movie really is a nod to travel. It really feels like a true adventure, with gorgeous visuals, fun adventures to follow, many encounters along the way, and varied locations, such as New York, a heron den, a seaside resort, and what's not. The father is a good character too. He's overprotective at the start of the movie, only to rediscover his love of traveling in the end. And this love of traveling is really what I feel when I watch Migration. I really feel that that's what this movie was trying to teach us. Its message is really good. The hassles of a vacation are part of every trip, but the beautiful places we'll see, the wonderful people we'll meet, the new cultures we'll enjoy discovering, and the good memories we'll make will always be worth it. It really is the movie that makes you want to travel more often, whatever the destination. Duck confits. British cinema is full of great movies. For example, James Bond movies, which even after 25 installments still don't bore audiences. We can also mention Paddington movies, which, in terms of writing quality, can literally be considered better than some Pixar movies. And the Wonka movie released at the end of 2023 is no exception. I literally can't say anything negative about it actually. Everything about it is just literally perfect. The movie succeeds in immersing us in Roald Dahl's fantastic universe. It's a prequel to Meg Stewart's movie, not Tim Burton's movie. The Oompa Loompas character design makes this clear. We follow Willy Wonka, the chocolate magician from the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He travels to a large European city, which I assume is in England, hoping to become a great chocolate maker. Unfortunately, he's very poor. He finds a small hotel run by Mrs. Scrubbit and Mr. Bleacher, who both seem kind to him, and it turns out that he can spend the night there for cheap prices after signing a contract. After earning some money the next day, he returns to the hotel to pay the bills, but the owners reveal their true faces. It turns out that the contract Wonka signed was rigged and far more expensive than it appeared. To pay off his debt, he's forced to work several years in coal scrubbing. But there, he meets a little girl named Noodles. Together, they decide to escape, and she's going to help Wonka become a great chocolate maker.
Seriously though, who would call that other noodles?
At the same time, rival chocolate makers, led by Slugwolf, are trying to prevent Wonka from becoming a great chocolate maker. They even go so far as to try and kill Wonka and Noodles several times. The movie has a lot going for it. First of all, the plot is really good because it really sounds like something Roald Dahl might write. The songs are great too. And of course, we have to talk about the atmosphere. It's just perfect. For a start, it has a light-hearted Roald Dahl-ish feel to it, with the aesthetics of the town, the music, the songs, and the small details, all made to transport us into the magical world of Willy Wonka. As a huge fan of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in general, I loved watching this movie from start to finish. It was a real journey into Roald Dahl's universe, outdone only by one other 2023 movie. As soon as I saw this movie in theaters, I knew it was going to be the winner of this ranking. Let's start with the only flaw. It's a shame that Ouija is just a fearful Princess Peach. And that's it. Other than that, everything's perfect.
And for the qualities, Nostalgia Night.
Okay, you spent enough time on Twitter. When I saw the casting they done for the English voices in this movie, I started to feel a bit pessimistic about this movie. But of course, I was younger and less mature back then. This movie is a real tribute to this franchise that I've loved since my childhood and that I still love today. The Easter eggs really help to accentuate this nostalgic feeling of the movie. Whether it's obvious references like Ouija's phone ringtone, which is in fact the jingle of the GameCube intro, or more hidden references like the Sunshine Travel Agency, this shot that is referenced to some of the levels of the first Super Mario Bros. Game which took place on a bridge, or the fact that the Kongs are the ones who are good at driving, which is a reference to Mario Kart Wii, where Funky Kong was so fucking overpowered. Every references really oozes nostalgia for Nintendo games. If anything has to do with the Mario universe itself in terms of humor, story, adventures, etc. were done poorly, the nostalgic thing of the movie would have no more effect than a Mario sticker put in a math book. But even these parts are good. The story is simple, but it works. The English dub is pretty good. And we gotta talk about the French dub. It's one of the best dubs I've ever heard in a movie. All the actors are really talented in capturing the character they play, and they're a pleasure to listen to. The action scene once again demonstrates Illumination's special talent when it comes to those types of scenes. Yes, Illumination Studios have talent. One day, I'll realize a video explaining why the hatred for them is anything but deserved, and they are in fact a very talented studio that deserves as much recognition as Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, or Ghibli. But that's not the point. As for the humor, it won't satisfy everyone, but personally, I regularly found myself laughing with the jokes in this movie. And speaking of humor, we must talk about Lumalee.
In an insane world, it is the same who is called crazy.
His joke is probably the best joke of every movie from Illumination Studios, and that's against some stiff competition, because even if we know these studios for Minion jokes, there are still good roasts and line here and there.
Can I drink this?
Do you want to explode?
But Lumalee is just hilarious. When I saw him coming, I was really laughing out loud.
There's no sunshine, only darkness.
I think it's a good lesson in dark humor. This humor has lines that take up a bit of time, but not too much time comparing to the overall length of the movie. And those jokes are rare and unexpected enough to be memorable, and that allows a good Mario Galaxy reference.
There's no escape. The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
Overall, this movie just has love. It's not just another Mario movie with the Mario sticker on it. It's a true tribute to the video game series that so many people have loved and continue to love today.
Now that's a happy ending. Or is it? Because everything's over now. And all that's left is you and the infinite void. Kind of makes you want to play saxophone, huh?
And with that, this video is over. Feel free to share your favorite 2023 movies with me too. I know I'm quite late, but I wanted to share this video with you anyway because I love talking about movies in general. Keep in mind that what I say in this video reflects my opinion and my take on each movie. Feel free to disagree if you want. After all, what I keep saying every day is that there's no objectivity in art, huh? Feel free to subscribe if you like the video and blah blah blah. I find it a bit pointless to tell people to subscribe, like, share and what's not. Frankly, people with really good taste in terms of YouTube videos have already done that, haven't they? Thanks for watching and see you next time!